Imagine this. One night, in the deepest solitude, a spectre approaches you and whispers a terrifying sentence. This life, just as you live it now, with every pain, every joy, every decision, you must repeat it eternally, unchanged, with no escape. How would you react? Would you see it as a blessing or as the worst of curses? Friedrich Nietzsche confronts us with this idea in his concept of the eternal return. But this is not just a philosophical speculation. It is a dark mirror that forces us to look at ourselves and ask, are we living a life we would be willing to repeat forever? The eternal return is not a theory about the nature of time. It is not a scientific hypothesis, nor a mystical prophecy. It is a test, a challenge. Nietzsche does not tell us that life truly repeats, but that we must live as if it did, as if every moment were doomed to return again and again, eternally, with no possibility of correction or regret. It is a brutal invitation to take full responsibility for our existence, to stop waiting for second chances that will never come, and to live with the intensity of someone who knows that every instant is definitive. Because if you knew that every moment of your existence would repeat endlessly, with no possibility of change, would you keep doing what you do now? Would you follow the same path, make the same decisions, live with the same resignation? Think about it. Every mistake, every moment of suffering, every unspoken word, every missed opportunity, all of it would repeat over and over again. There would be no redemption, no forgetting, just an eternity of the same. Every decision that now seems insignificant would gain infinite weight. Every silence would become an eternal echo. And if this idea torments you, if it fills you with horror, perhaps you already suspect the truth, that you've been living on autopilot, that you've allowed routine and fear to dictate your path. Maybe the most terrifying thing about the eternal return is not the repetition itself, but realizing that you've been existing without truly living. Nietzsche throws this question at us like a bomb, because the eternal return is not just a hypothetical test. It is a way of evaluating life, of stripping it bare and seeing what remains when all external justifications are ripped away. No excuses, no distractions, no false promises of a redemptive future. If every day is a brick that builds your eternity, what are you building? A prison where the same wrong decisions repeat as a self-imposed punishment, or a temple where every action and thought reflects the life you truly wish to live? Because if time repeats endlessly, then every moment, every tiny gesture, is eternity itself. Curiously, Milan Kundera, in The Unbearable Lightness of Being, offers us the opposite side of this coin. If Nietzsche's eternal return imposes the unbearable weight of total responsibility, Kundera immerses us in the unbearable lightness of a life that only happens once, without repetition, without absolute consequences. In his view, the ephemeral nature of existence may seem liberating, but it also leaves us adrift in a meaninglessness void. Which weighs more? A life that repeats endlessly, or one that disintegrates without leaving a trace? Perhaps the real burden is not in repetition, but in the awareness of what we do with the time we've been given. Heraclitus, with his vision of constant becoming, adds another layer to this reflection. No one bathes in the same river twice, he tells us. Everything changes, everything flows. But then, if nothing remains, where does meaning reside? In the eternal weight of Nietzsche, in the fleeting lightness of Kundera, or in the endless current of Heraclitus? Perhaps the key is not to choose one paradigm, but to accept that we live caught in the tension between weight and lightness, between repetition and fleetingness, between the eternal and the ephemeral. How do you reconcile this paradox? But here's the paradox. If you live as if the eternal return were real, something changes within you, because it forces you to make decisions with real weight. It compels you to think of every action as definitive. You cannot wait for a future where someday you'll live as you wish. You cannot deceive yourself with the illusion that a mistake will be corrected over time. Everything is eternal. Every choice counts. Every thought you allow into your mind, every word you choose to silence or speak, every gesture, no matter how insignificant it seems, is an echo that will resonate for all eternity. But what if the eternal return weren't a curse, but an invitation to greatness? What if each repetition were an opportunity to transform existence itself into a work of art? This is where Nietzsche's philosophy intersects with the idea of amor fati, the love of fate. To accept life with all its shadows, to embrace it entirely, to live in such a way that every moment deserves to be repeated, not out of resignation, but out of will. Can you imagine a life where each moment, even the darkest, is embraced with such intensity that you desire its eternal repetition? Perhaps the eternal return is nothing more than a macabre game of philosophy, a provocation that has no answer. But if you take it seriously, if you allow this idea to sink deep within you, it can change everything. It can make you realize that life has no rehearsals or repetitions, that every moment is definitive, that every breath is a vow for the existence you choose to live. So tell me, if your life were destined to repeat for eternity, would you accept it just as it is? Or would you be condemned to the despair of a cycle that never ends? Leave me your answer in the comments. And if this thought has resonated with you, share this video with someone who needs to face their own fate. Subscribe and continue exploring with me the darkest corners of existence.